Thank you. Next question from the panel is from Mr. Costner, and it's to Mr. Knight first.
Okay. I asked about jobs and economic development last hour. Do you have any specific examples of success stories or examples of something you've done to develop or bring jobs to the area, and some jobs you've brought to the area?
I think it primarily has been a collective effort. We do work together on that, and I think one good example is the Nussbaum Center. For those of you who don't know, they have operated out of Revolution Mill for several years, and through some landlord-initiated actions, were forced to move. And D.H. Griffin, one of our local companies, gave them the building down at what is Old Carolina Steel Space on South Elm Street. They needed about a little bit over $4 million to renovate so that they can continue that training program, very successful training program. They've been around, the program's been in place for many years. And they had applied for a federal grant, came to the city and asked for $1.2 million. And the council's not in a position to grant funding to a program like that. But rather, it's such a valuable program. I met with members of the board, and through some discussions, and then back to the council, we made a long-term, very favorable, low-interest loan to them, and they are just about there to succeed. It's taken them a road, but they're almost there. So I'm proud of what we did there.
You know, I think the mayor's right that that council collectively works toward jobs and economic development, and we haven't had enough opportunities to provide incentive packages for companies looking at growing in our area, just because this economy has been so difficult and so devastating. But when you get an opportunity to see a Honda Jet, you say yes. When you get an opportunity to do something that grows a couple of hundred jobs in a distribution center, you say yes. You do what you have to do. When LabCorp was looking at locating a service center here in Greensboro, their salary range wasn't as high as maybe we would have wanted in good times. But we knew that 380 plus jobs were significant to our community, because at least the folks that work there would have an opportunity to provide for their families. So we went a little bit outside of our model, and we said, we're going to bring them here. And today they're in place off of High Point Road in a redevelopment corridor and successfully operating in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I hope that when our economy expands a little bit, they'll bring more jobs here.
Next two questions will be to Mr. Perkins first. I've got two I'm going to try to combine that ask about the attitude of the public toward local government. One says, people are tired of big, arrogant government and big bureaucracy. What will you do to break or change that perception? The other one is talking about from the perspective of citizens who serve on the city's boards and commissions, and the accusation that they're not given the respect and appreciation that should be accorded to all who serve. So if you could comment on that, please, Mr. Perkins first.
You know, what are you going to do? Well, smile more, maybe. Smile more. You know, it's hard work being in government these days, because everybody is paying attention. I mean, when you look at we talked about communicating with our citizens. We are on the front lines on the City Council. Our folks in Greensboro can reach out and touch us just about all the time. They know what we're doing. They know where we're doing it. They know everything about us. We've got blogs, we've got texting, we've got emails, we've got TV, we've got newspapers, we've got weeklies, we've got dailies, we've got news channels. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to be touched. And one of the things that we've got to do is run our meetings so that the public senses that, number one, we know what we're doing, and number two, that they know that we're trying to listen to them, and number three, that we all try as one community to benefit Greensboro and be respectful to each other when we're making our respective arguments. You can't agree on everything. Nobody's going to agree on everything. But we can agree that when we do try to work with each other, we do it in a respectful fashion. And I think that goes to the boards and commissions as well. They have a difficult job, and sometimes we do second guess them. But they're there to make those decisions so we can make a better overall decision for the city.
You know, I was at we were both at a forum this afternoon, and a number of council candidates were there. Some I had met, frankly, I had met before, but I'm hearing what I heard 2 years ago, a whole bevy of new ideas, which is great. People who are energized, want to serve, and we ask, why do you want to serve? Because you want to serve. I mean, you care. I think we all care. We have our differences. We bicker, we fight, we kick, sometimes we probably cuss, but we do all care. And we will serve, our time will come, we will move on, Greensboro will continue. Greensboro has been here a long time. God willing, it's going to be here for a long time. It's a great, great community, but it's the process we live in today, whether it be a school board or a county commissioners or a legislature or a city council. We work hard, and there is no magic bullet, but we're always striving to try to achieve a goal and work through those agendas. We get a lot of work done. We have a lot that reaches the front page of the newspaper, but there's a lot of things that we do that never make it, that really reach out and satisfy the needs of communities and neighborhoods and individuals. Thank you.
Back to the panel, question for Mr. Johnson, and this is going first to Mr. Perkins.
Well, one thing that did make the headlines on the front page of the newspaper was redistricting, which the council did twice. What went wrong?
Well, again, I think it was a process failure. The redistricting, of course, comes along every 10 years when you have census in the country, and we have to balance the population among the various 5 districts in Greensboro so that it is an equitable way for us to elect council members. And I think the process kind of got off on the wrong foot because we selected one district council person to be in charge of the redistricting process. And some of us asked that be expanded to 2 or 3 council people, and in fact include some of us at-large folks so that there wouldn't be any inherent conflicts on the council for that process. That was disregarded, and all of a sudden we found a map that was provided to one of the district council people on their front porch being voted on at a city council meeting. And not only did that map move some of that candidate's opponents out of her district, but it also reconfigured district number 1 on the southeast side of the city. And it created enough of a stir that the average citizen stood up and said, we're not going to take it anymore, and forced the council to change to another plan.
Redistricting, you said, happens every time a census is taken. It also happened, I think, in 2008 when there was with an annexation. And what I've seen, and it goes back even before I was ever in office, it's always a controversial process, regardless of what level of government it is. It's always. But part of how this can be addressed, Greensboro is somewhat unique among North Carolina, the larger North Carolina cities. Our city council has no committee structure, no standing committees of council. Other cities do. My favorite example is the way they do in Winston-Salem and in Raleigh, but we have no standing committees. So many issues come to the city council first time sight unseen. When it comes to us on the agenda, that's the first time we have seen it. We could begin to develop a committee structure. I think it could do great things. As far as the We did get the redistricting approved. It went to the Department of Justice. It did go through some bumps, but in the long term, one other alternative would be, you know, someday maybe there will be a time when we'd go back and we just vote for all candidates at large, and the one who gets the most votes becomes the mayor. You know, we did that. It worked for many, many years.
Thank you. We're coming up on 9 o'clock here, so we have one final question for the candidates. I know they both had a very long day. Some of them may have something on their agenda tomorrow to do with the President of the United States as well, perhaps early in the morning. So this will be the last question. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. We got through an awful lot. I think we got almost all of them answered. The final question goes first to Mr. Knight, and the question is, what would you say to people who voted for Tom Phillips in the primary? Why do you deserve their vote in the general election, or why does the other guy not deserve their vote in the general election?
Well, the first thing I tell them is vote for me. But I just met Tom Phillips several months ago, and it's interesting. His work was in the same building where our office was, and we crossed paths, but we never got to know each other. But you know, we have a very cordial relationship, and I think he probably stepped up to. I can't speak for him, but I think he probably stepped up to run like the rest of us do. He saw a need. Everybody, when I ran, I saw things I didn't like. He may have seen things he didn't like. I promise you, there are people sitting there in that forum today from the council who are candidates who have seen things they don't like. That's just the way it is. So, but as far as Mr. Phillips, I can't really speak to that. I don't know him, but you know, I wish him well, and I appreciate the fact that he did step up and participate. And we need to have participation in our council elections always. Years ago, it seemed like you almost had, when I was working, if I recall, it was almost difficult to get a full slate. I know we did, but we need participation, vigorous debate, argue. Yes, that's okay. That's part of the process. We're a democracy, but we move on.
Well, I know Tom Phillips pretty well. For 17 years, we lived across the street from each other on Greenbrook Drive, and we participated in a number of lively debates in the center of Greenbrook Drive up until 10 or 10:30 at night. And one thing about Tom, you could differ with him, but you weren't going to change his mind too much. But he is a person that I respect an awful lot. Anybody who's looked at the Arctic side of Siberia or the Russian coast through the periscope of an attack sub has my respect. And he also doesn't have any problem making up his mind what to do. So I would tell his voters that if you want someone who is going to respect the council manager form of government in Greensboro, who's going to try to protect your infrastructure and try to speak positively about a process-driven government where we listen to the people and we work together for the good of all the people, then cast your votes for Robbie Perkins. But Mr. Phillips is a good friend, and I hope to play some golf with him in the future.
Thank you. That's it for the questions for tonight. Just a few final things before we have a round of applause for the candidates. I'd once again like to thank our sponsors for the event tonight, including Guilford College, which has been a terrific host, giving us a great facility to hold this forum in here. I'd like to thank News 14 Carolina for televising the event and having so many folks out here tonight. I'd like to thank the Greensboro News and Record for helping to organize the forum and supplying two of our panelists, along with Mr. Costner from News 14. I'd like to thank all the volunteers from the Neighborhood Congress who have helped make the event run smoothly tonight. And once again, a reminder, don't just go out and vote on November 8th, but think of 5 people you know and make sure they all get out to vote too on November 8th. That being said, let's have a round of applause for the candidates, and we've done.